But do it all. Okay, now I'm gonna go live everywhere. Perfect. Okay, so I've got I had a couple of things I want to talk about today. I was like, should we talk about this? Should we talk about that? A couple of things on my mind. And I started the day off pretty chilled. I was like, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna do this like work that I've been wanting to do for a long time, like for weeks. And you know when you've got like a project and you finally get a chance to do it, and you're like, "Oh, I can't wait," even though you know it's going to be a lot of work. Maybe you're like renovating, or you're painting, or decorating, or something, and you know it's going to be a lot of work, but you're looking forward to it, looking forward to the change, the challenge. So I know I was looking forward to doing this work this morning, and I was having breakfast, and then I went on to TikTok, unfortunately, and let me just decline these people. And something grabbed my attention. For some reason, I come across, hey Scott, I come across this guy on TikTok this morning. I'm going to name him John because that's his name. And he was doing a live. Why? He was talking about insulin, diabetes, and fasting. So he was quoting this book that he had up on the screen. And he's like, this book says that you're supposed to fast. Or this guy reversed type 2 diabetes in his study just by making these people fast. And what he was saying is basically, if you get rid of all the glycogen in your body, then you're going to pull from fast storage. Basically, you're not going to have these spikes. There's not going to be insulin, all this kind of stuff. But I messaged, or I commented on it, and I said, I don't agree with this. And he's like, I don't know I don't understand. How can you not understand if someone says they don't agree with it? I don't agree with what you're saying. Like, I don't know how else to put that. So I continued to comment, and I said, this is not good. No, it's not necessary for people with insulin resistance. He's like, but this guy reversed diabetes. I said, I have reversed type 2 diabetes in clients with no fasting, so it's not necessary. And I said, especially with women in perimenopause. And he's like, we're not talking about diabetes, even though he had said diabetes a million times before. He said, we're talking about things like PCOS, other like medical conditions. I'm like, yeah, menopause and perimenopause, when you're insulin resistant, you become more insulin resistant. And after a few comments, he blocked me. So this is the problem, guys. Like, you see someone on Instagram or TikTok or something like spouting all this shit because they've got the study like right up in front of them, so they can, they can talk about it and they can like quote this study and whatever. And honestly, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like, you do not have to fast if you've got diabetes or type 2. I'm talking about in particular. If you've got insulin resistance, you do not have to fast. And in fact, what I found with working with women, and this is the thing, I always say this: we don't live in a lab. Scott knows I always say this. But if what I found with my clients, if I got them to fast, they're more likely to snack through the day. Hey, Lindsay. And I'm the same. Like, if I don't, to be honest, I would snack through the day anyway. But, like if you haven't eaten and you're not allowed to eat, then you're going to be more hungry, and you probably haven't like prepared your food. So what are you going to do? You're going to grab wherever's closest. You're going to grab something easy and quick because now you're starving because you haven't eaten for such a long time. Now, I'm going to kind of precursor all this with the fact that I'm not against fasting. That's not what I'm saying here. Like, I got a couple of clients that prefer to fast. One of my friends, who is also a coach, is a fasting king. IF with Ryan, so intermittent fasting with Ryan, if you know him, on YouTube. But it's fine. It works for some people. But when we're looking, especially within the perimenopause and menopause and PCOS area or demographic, shall we say, like, this isn't always the way that it works. So when you are insulin resistant, basically it makes you can gain more belly fat, You talk about fasting, but what about slowing? Funny. It can make you gain belly fat. It can exacerbate like other symptoms, especially when it comes to like perimenopause, PCOS, menopause, those kinds of issues. But the thing is, a lot of people are stressed, right? And when you're stressed, the sugar gets, I'm going to say this at a very like top kind of basic level, the sugar gets dumped into your bloodstream. And this is because your body wants to use carbohydrates for fuel because it goes into this like fight or flight kind of zone, right? So now, let's say you're walking across a street and a car comes at you. You go into the fight or flight, your body's like, right, okay, let's go. And it sprints across the road. Or like if your kid or your dog, God forbid your dog, good timing, you know, is about to get run over. You are sprinting towards your kid or your dog, you're pushing out the way or wherever, right? You get this like sudden rush. Your heart rate increases, sweaty palms, like dry mouth, all these kinds of things happen. And this is basically your cortisol rush, your fight or flight state. So the insulin is now in your blood because your body needs to use it very, very quickly. Does this make sense, guys? Like your body needs access to that sugar. So it needs to not needs to be like easily accessible. So the problem is our brains and our bodies don't know the difference between mental and physical stress. So maybe you're not being chased. Maybe your kid or your dog is not in front of a car. Maybe you've just got a shitty email from your boss, right? But you still have this like fight or flight response. So you've got kids, maybe you're looking after your parents, maybe you're caring responsibilities. You now have got to work at the same time. You've got all these like kind of like problems going on in life, or different stresses, not necessarily problems, but the stresses. And so your body, excuse me, reacts in the same way. Your body's not like, this isn't a threat. It thinks it is a threat. So now you've got more sugars in your blood, basically, just in case you need to run away. Even though obviously you don't need to run away from your boss. Maybe you do sometimes. Your body thinks it is that's what it needs. So when there's more in your blood, more sugar in your blood, your body becomes more insulin resistant because it's so used to having so much sugar in there. It's like, now we don't know what to do with this. We're not sensitive to it. We are resistant to it. So that's one of the ways you get insulin resistant, okay? So the idea is that you want to be more insulin sensitive so that when you do have sugars, it's not in your blood, they go into like your liver and your muscles and all that kind of stuff. And then if you have excess, it's going to go into your belly. So I'm looking for this, it's right here. What has this got to do with fasting? So how does fasting help? Let's talk about how it does help. It helps because you have like a little bit of a break from eating. And so your body's not digesting, it's not doing all things. Hey, Bushra. Excuse me. This cough, guys, it's like ridiculous. Where was I? Just completely lost where I was. So your body is doing its own thing, right? But then when you are completely stressed, or like even like chronically stressed, it doesn't have to be like through the roof kind of stress, but when you are chronically stressed and you are now adding on fasting on top of that, guess what's going to happen? Your body's going to go, hey, you haven't eaten for a while. Is there a threat? Is there a perceived threat out there? And your body doesn't know because we've already discussed it. Your body doesn't know the difference between mental and physical stress. So you can fast. Guess what? You fast when you're asleep. Hey, Murray. So when you are asleep for 8 to 10 hours, hopefully that's your kind of goal, guess what? You're not eating. So you're fasting. So there is plenty time for your body to have that rest and digest. And also then you've got like a couple of hours either side, right? You don't need to immediately go to bed. you don't eat immediately when you wake up. So you've got this fasting period. You do not need to skip breakfast. In fact, like you've already said, what happens when you skip breakfast is that you get more cravings later on in the day. You are hungry, so you just grab wherever. And normally it's like the vending machine, right? You go to the vending machine um, to um, to grab something quick, just before lunch, or maybe it's that 2 p.m. crash or 3 p.m. crash where you're like, I'm just going to get this, this chocolate pick me up with a coffee. I'm going to get this muffin with a coffee, wherever it's going to be. And so that is going to increase your glucose levels. It's going to increase the sugar in your blood. You can have this spike, then you're going to have the drop later. And you've got to watch for that cortisol. Exactly. Which you wouldn't have had if you had had breakfast, a substantial meal for the start of the day, and you would have been fine through the rest of the day. So fasting increases cortisol. Cortisol increases blood sugar levels, which in turn can create insulin resistance. Okay, this is very, I'm speaking very basically now. There are nuances. Of course, there's always nuances. And like I say, some of my clients prefer to fast, and that's cool. But if you're not doing it with guidance and with, a specialist or someone that knows this stuff inside out and knows the effects, and, if you're stressed, like, I'm not going to make you fast. That is like the worst thing you can be doing. And you might be saying, well, I don't feel stressed. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't feel stressed most of the time. But I notice I am stressed to shit the majority of the time because I got a lot going on in my life. So it's really important, guys. Like, if you see these people piping up, like, this is the only way to reverse diabetes, or like I said, I reverse diabetes in clients, no fasting. This is what you do, okay? You do exactly the same as what you would do if you didn't have diabetes. Surprise! Because all healthy bodies work the same way. So, breakfast, you have a high fat, high protein, high fiber breakfast. That is it. And actually, what I will say is that guy was promoting skipping breakfast. Now, studies also show that it's better to skip dinner. If you're going to skip a meal, it's better to have your food further on in the day and not have food later on in the day. That's what the studies show us. That's what experience outside of studies show us. So if that's what you're going to do that, right? But you still need to eat your calories earlier on in the day. Should people stay away from sweet breakfasts? Generally, yes, because you want to start your body off going in the right way. So you should avoid like sweet stuff in general, right? I'm not saying totally don't have it, especially early on in the day. You want your blood sugar levels to be pretty consistent rather than like spiking up, having like waffles or let me just have this commercial guys. Like waffles or pancakes, all those good stuff. Which toast, cereal. These are things we shouldn't really be having first thing in the morning. And if you look at what cultures demographically have these kind of breakfasts, it's Western, right? It's like the Brits and the Americans, North Americans. And where is obesity most prevalent? In these places. And don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that when things like cereal started to come in, like sugary cereal started to come into play, obesity levels increased as well. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read somewhere. It was a while ago, so I may have got them muddled up, but generally, that's what we're seeing. So if we instead have something like a high fiber, high protein breakfast, that's going to stabilize blood sugars, it's going to help you feel fuller, and generally it's not going to give you things like brain fog or mood swings or irritability. So your day is going to be set up to win versus just like surviving on coffee and sugar. So the kind of takeaway I want you guys to understand from this is, first of all, if you have got PCOS, menopause, not got menopause, if you're going through menopause, going through perimenopause, if you've got any of those symptoms, please don't jump to fasting as a weight loss weight loss or even insulin sensitivity method, because they're way better, more productive methods to do it. So please don't just jump to that, okay? The second thing is, if you see someone talking on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, like this is the only way to do it, run, right? I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of fasting, as you may understand. Same with running. I'm not a fan of my clients running. But we've got clients that run because they like it, because it's their preference, because they enjoy it. Like, there's horses for courses, as Scott would say. But ultimately, there is more than one way to skin a cat. So if we continue to just listen to people like this guy, who then proceeded to block me, didn't even have a conversation, didn't have a discussion with me, just wanted it his way because he's obviously selling something, then it just pisses me off, basically. Pisses me off that it's preying on people's health, it's preying on people who don't understand the complexities of their body, who are so desperate to find a way to lose weight, to improve their health, to come off medication. Like, people like that prey on those kinds of people, and it just fucking pisses me off, basically. Apologies if I'm not allowed to swear on this. I just did. But it's so frustrating, and it really, really annoys me, which is why I come on and I do these to help you guys see that there are a different variety of ways to get to the same result. Not all ways will work for every single person, of course, and that's why we try different things. But please don't be fooled into thinking there's only one way to get the result that you want. It's very upsetting, as you can tell. I'm very pissed off with this guy, John, because that's his name. And I would say go find him, but you can't find him because through my profile, because he blocked me, whatever. But yeah, girls, like, if that's what, and I've helped men and women reverse diabetes, not just women we're talking about here, but more so in women, cortisol levels increase. And in fact, other things, right? Let's talk about PCOS. Let's go down this rabbit hole, shall we? I had a client, Katie. She pops up here and then, she might pop up. And she never told me she'd PCOS. Just didn't know she had it. She was telling me her symptoms. We were talking about, like, what's happening with her body, what's happening with how her weight increases or decreases, how her body changes, like the way it looks, how she feels after food, the length of her menstrual cycle, her symptoms of PMS. Like, we spoke about all these different things and working together. This is why we work together with clients for a long period of time, not just like 2 weeks or something, because we need to see how menstrual cycles are being affected and so on and so forth. Try different things. So anyway, Katie, I suspected she had PCOS. The symptoms that she was talking to me about, and when I was asking questions, she was presenting with PCOS. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I could not diagnose her, but my assumption was that she had it. So we then put her on a PCOS kind of protocol, which, guess what, guys, is basically no fasting, high fiber, high protein, which is what? It's also what Bushra's got. It's also what Maria's got. It's mostly what generally healthy people eat. They eat a lot of fruit and a lot of veg. Guess what? Fruit has got sugar in it, but it's really good for you. They eat a lot of fruit, a lot of veg, a lot of protein. Guess they eat less of? Sweets, crisps, donuts, pizza. Not none. I didn't say they cut out. I said that they eat less of it. So because we did this, and we did manipulate her carb intake slightly as well, see what happened. And guess what? Her cycles started to regulate. And she started to lose weight. But that's the side effect. Like, the main win here was that her cycles started to regulate. So she could have like over 100 days of cycle, like of menstrual cycle, over 100 days. Imagine that. And then she'd have like the mood swings and all that kind of stuff, fatigue, whatever. And now she's getting she's getting a period, she's getting a bleed every 30-ish days. Do you know during this period, there was one time where we fixed it for like 2 months, fixed it. We regulated for 2 months, and then 1 month was longer. And the reason for this was because she was on photo shoot prep. Now, photo shoot prep is, guess what? Very stressful. It's a lot of exercise. It's not much food. It's a lot of restriction. And so what this did is it increased cortisol. She also has a very stressful job. It increased cortisol, which then exacerbates PCOS symptoms, probably because of the cortisol response and the insulin response to that. So just by telling someone to fast, because that's what this book says, fuck my life, like, I'm sick of people quoting one study and being like, this is it. Or finding one person like, this is it. This is God. Like, be careful, guys. Like, ask questions. And if they block you for asking questions, they probably don't know what they're talking about. And they probably feel threatened by you asking to understand, help me to understand. Don't just like tell me the answer. Help me to understand, which is why this whole thing, when I've spoken to you guys today, has been about, okay, what happens? What happens when it comes to mask? Okay, I'll read that in a minute. What happens to your blood sugars when you do fast, when you don't fast? What has cortisol got to do with blood sugars and insulin resistance? And what is insulin resistance? So it's important for you guys to understand this. And if you want more of this kind of stuff, make sure you are following me. Make sure you are in the free Facebook group where we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. And give you easy changes versus like, I don't know, fast and not eat. I love food. Don't tell me to fast. I freaking love it. But if you do want to fast, you can fast in my program, but also my friend Ryan is an intermittent faster. Sometimes he has one meal a day. It's not ideal for women, definitely, and definitely through perimenopause, menopause. It's not really for you. Someone's asking about like a COVID mask. It's not for me, mate. I don't know what you're talking about. I love food. Busher loves food. Busher loves food. So that's it, basically, guys. Like, that is my rant about trolls online. Well, not troll. I don't even want to use the word uneducated because perhaps he was, but people who prey on people's insecurities and vulnerabilities. Like, I don't like that. So just be careful when someone's saying like, this is the only way to do it. Worry about it. I don't know who this guy is, or girl. I don't know. Go away. Put user in timeouts. I'll do that, wherever that means. There you go. I also don't know how to get rid of that thing now, but